Hello. So let's officially start the webinar today. Very good afternoon, everybody. My name is John, and welcome to this webinar. Let's wait for our guest speakers joining. Hey, Sofia, how are you? Good. Shalyn, how are you? Good afternoon.
Hi. Good
Welcome,
afternoon.
welcome. And welcoming our attendees today. I think our attendees are from different places today. Welcome you all. And thank you for taking your time on this Friday afternoon to join our webinar, where we invite speakers, educators to share their teaching methodologies and best practices for online teaching. So both of the speakers today are very professional in using technology, especially on a daily basis, right? So COVID has made us force all of the educators to teach differently, all right? We have to use technology now. Before COVID, I would say EdTech may be a good to have thing, but right now it's must to have because that is the only way we can engage students now. So that's also a bit of a challenge for all of us. So before we start, I'd just like to ask you guys your opinions about how do you teach now? And right now, what do you think is like the biggest challenge for the educators? Shalyn, you want to share with us first?
Yeah, I mean, like you rightly pointed out, it's a different ballgame altogether. So we need to find as many ways as possible to address the number one challenge in home-based learning or online learning. And to me, it's student engagement. Yeah.
Student engagement.
So so we have to leverage on the tools that we have to achieve at least a certain level that we plan to achieve in every home-based learning session. That's student engagement. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I strongly agree because unlike in physical classrooms, you can easily see students. Now you have to like force students to turn on their camera in order to see them, right? And I heard some students can use the video background. So they just loop play the video background. So students are creative and teachers must be creative as well. Yeah, Sophia, what's your thought on this?
Thank you so much, John, for having me. I absolutely agree with Shalyn. There are challenges when it comes to home-based learning or virtual learning itself. From my personal experience is that when I'm creative at one class with whatever technology or platform that I use, it doesn't necessarily get the same response in another group. So I have always need to be creative, and then depends on the type of cohort and student in which classroom. So I need to cater to different types of needs. So it's a bit of a challenge for lecturers.
Right, because I think before you actually run it with the students, you didn't know how they will react. So I guess if you teach a large group, definitely it's so much more, so much different from like a small group, which is more easily manageable, right? So I guess in your speech today, you will share more about your opinions and how you handle these different cohorts of students and how you interact with them. So let me just share my screen now. I also have a question for the audience. So for those of you who haven't joined our presentation, so please join the presentation. Okay, let's wait for my colleague to start screen sharing. Okay, so far we have close to 80 attendees. Okay. Right, let's start the presentation. And for those of you who don't know ClassPoint yet, it's basically a PowerPoint-based student engagement platform. So you can see at the top right, we have a class code. So let's click on that, and then you can go to classpoint.app, or you can scan the QR code, right? So COVID has actually trained all of us to be QR code scan experts. So just scan. Yeah, actually before that, sometimes I got a question like, do I have a QR code scanner on my Android phone or on iPhone? How do you actually scan QR code? Now nobody has this issue. So both the teachers and students are sort of more ready than before in using technology. So in ClassPoint, what we do is just by integrating interaction into PowerPoint. So we have 40. Now, we'll wait for all of you to join, and at the same time, we'll ask the first question first. Okay, so tell us, where are you from? So from the registration, I know some of you are from different parts of the world. So we'll just run this question. You can tell us which country you're from, which city you're from, or even which organization, which school you're from. So we have Singapore, Indonesia, ITE, we have Philippines, Cebu, Singapore Polytechnic, Surabaya, NTU. Thank you. Thank you for joining this session. Poly Central, we have China as well. SP, Raffles Institution, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia. Okay, so I think majority are from Singapore. SP, we have SP and IT, Taylor's University, yes. School of Triple E, must be from SP as well. Right, okay, so take that as a warm-up. SIT, we have SIT. Okay, let's stop this. Thank you for tuning to this webinar from different places. And now, let me just show you the agenda of today's webinar. I will first show you the price of the day. Okay, so Wacom is our sponsor today. They're very kind. They've sponsored us this thing. So this is a graphics tablet, and we actually have 3 of them to be given out to our attendees today. So do stick around until the last part of this webinar, where we'll run an interesting quiz competition and select the winners, right? So we'll select winners from our participants of this presentation today. So after the prize of the day, we'll move on to Shalyn's presentation. So Shalyn is a senior lecturer from IT College Central, Singapore, and she will be sharing about her minimalist approach to student engagement in home-based learning. And followed by Sofia. Sofia will be sharing how she inspires the classroom experience during the virtual learning. And after their speech, I will basically summarize a little bit the new quiz competition feature in ClassPoint, and then I will use the same feature actually to run a quiz competition. And then we all know we have the top 3 players, and these top 3 players will be our winners today. And throughout the session, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A part to ask the question. So that will make it easier for our speakers to look at the questions and answer the questions. Okay, so let's move on to Shalyn. You want to share with us your speech? The stage is yours.
Okay, just give me a while here while I log on to and share my screen. So let me just click on the sharing screen. So I believe you are looking at a very stressful teacher right now. Okay, so thank you very much, John, for inviting this to speak at this platform. Now, we are in Singapore, we call this the home-based learning, right? Online learning, distance learning, different countries call it differently. We call it home-based learning. So we were shoved into this all of a sudden when we went into circuit breaker. So a lot of lecturers, I mean, we know a lot of tools, but the question now is which works best to us, to our students, to our class. So I think this is you and me. If you're an educator in an everyday classroom, when we plan for our home-based learnings, we're probably looking like this, yeah, a plethora of tools, a multitude of tools, and which will be best used. So the title of my topic is home-based, or rather minimalist approach, right? So let's just think back and ask ourselves in every home-based learning what it is that we try to achieve. So if you look at this slide in front of you, I think I would summarize typically for every HBL sessions, I use the acronym HBLs for home-based learning, yeah, or online learning. So we are, every HBL session that we have only one purpose, that is to deliver our contents across to our students as engaging as possible. And when we say engagement, we are typically looking at three factors. The very first and most important, I would say, is our student to content engagement, right? Because every opportunities that the lecturers create for the students, yeah, to get them engaged with the content, we know that every opportunity increases their interaction with the content, and therefore allows them to internalize the content better and better prepare them for the exams and the tests, right? So the digital solutions that we can perhaps think about to use is the quizzing, the quick polling. No rocket science here, but I think when we deliver our HBL sessions, quizzing, which by the way, ClassPoint works very, very well with, is one of the very, I would say, a very meaningful way to engage our student with the content. And moving on, we have not to also forget that the students need, when they are socially away from others, right, in their own individual homes, now they need to talk about their content, and the best people to talk about, to increase their engagement with the content is also with themselves, with their peers. So while in the physical face-to-face, it's very simple to do. We just group them together and they go to one corner and they discuss about things that we want them to discuss. Then in home-based learning, what do we do? Right. So here in ITE in Singapore, ITE Singapore, we are using our LMS. We called it the Blackboard, right? So Blackboard Collaborate has in itself rooms, private rooms that we can just send our group of students to. So they have the opportunity to discuss the contents in the privacy with their peers, 2 to 3. And when they discuss, we're in fact encouraging higher order thinking in these students, right? And moving on, I guess the third engagement that we want our students to achieve is also engagement with the teacher. Now, it's very difficult in home-based learning because we are away from each other physically. So, like it or not, lecturers, educators, you are very important to the students, though they don't say that. Yeah, one of our students, a GPA 4 student who didn't do too well during home-based learning, right? Because they lose that mentor figure that they look up to of their teachers, that they during the normal face-to-face, they see them every day, they are engaged with the teachers, they talk about things, and therefore motivates them. But when they are away from school in home-based learning, that physical presence of the teacher is zero, right? So, but having said that, we can substitute that physical presence with teacher immediacy. So what we mean by that is possibly through our feedback. So while they don't see us physically, they hear from us. And in ITE, our typical class size is 40, right? So to the teacher, it may be a little bit too overwhelming if we are to immediately feedback to our students, right? So we find alternative means. So sometimes we use Microsoft Forms, for example, when they answer certain questions, we can immediately flag that as correct or that's wrong, and that's the reason why it's wrong, is so on and so forth. So we leverage on tools to help us get there. So having in mind this few things, this student engagement in mind. So practically on our day-to-day basis, right? How do we really do it? Some of us, I come from School of Business, so School of Business is typically very heavy on theoretical lessons, right? And theoretical, I mean, we dread, all of us as learners dread theory lessons because it sometimes can be, we are new to the contents and sometimes it sounds really very dry. So what we try to do, okay, is to adopt the minimalist approach. So here in minimalist approach, what we try to achieve is that every single second, every single minute that the student is with us, we try to focus on meaningful experience, right? And on top of meaningless possession. Take for example, our typical lesson duration is 2 hours, right? So must we occupy all the 2 hours? so that while we are in possessed of that 2 hours, right, that we may not need to use all that 2 hours. So for my personally, how I practice my class session is I try to not have a theory lesson that runs more than 1.5 hours, because some of the academics are saying that online sessions should not exceed 1.5 hours, and I guess being academics, they would have done enough research to substantiate why that magical number of 1.5 hours. So but I find it personally that it does work if we have sessions that is long enough or short enough to engage them meaningfully in every little minute that they have, or rather when we have with them, what we have with them. So for me, I start lessons on time, be it an 8 o'clock lesson, it's just on time. And I do away with breaks, right? Because it's very difficult HBL, home-based learning, to see who has returned from break. Not like in a physical classroom, we can see them walk in, but here we are clueless, right? We do not know, so we do not want anyone to be missing anything critical that we will be saying in that few minutes, right? So that's something that can be done, and what for me personally that I'm doing with my class right now. And the talk time, right? We know that we can't go on talking till we lose energy, right? So 15-20 minutes, probably that's as long as how we can continually talk about a certain content before breaking with a meaningful activity like a question, which can be easily done with the virtual classroom. So we are using Blackboard Collaborate, and that's very easily done with a quick polling. Can just quickly type out something and post it on the virtual classroom. Or what I really like to do that is afforded by ClassPoint is this thing called pick a name, isn't it? So picking a name allows something new to me when I have this class of mine with special needs. Yeah, so special needs have a certain level of anxiety when it comes to group and classroom discussion. So typically they would not raise their hands to ask. So sometimes, and for us lecturers, we do not want to be seen as favoring someone over another student, right? So we use this pick a name. So if one joins the same ClassPoint app class code, then we can see all these names being masked up. So we can just randomly call them up, and that create certain level of engagement that my students feel that they have to always be around to hear what the lecturers are saying, so that they can respond, right? So we try to do that with most, if not all, of our HBL sessions. And of course the devices and the applications that we use, we can't run away from the fact that we have to use some certain kind of tools, right? Online tools, EdTech tools, because HBL, isn't it? So we can't have physical papers, we can't have face-to-face, so we have to leverage on the affordance of the technology. But having said that, there are just that many tools that is available in the market. So how do we then, as a informed lecturer, choose? My preference is to choose tools that has as flat a learning curve as possible. And it doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to have a lot of graphics or sound or aesthetics feel. It can be as plain as our plain old PowerPoint. And now with the ClassPoint on top of that, I can, if you notice that I have this laser tool, laser pointer, and I can do a quick quiz without leaving the deck of slides. So that reduces my own fatigue as a lecturer when we teach, by not lessen the need to switch from screen to screen, right? So less is more, if that's one thing that we want to take away from this session. Minimalist approach, yeah, to still engage our students with the contents, with their fellow peers, and of course with the lecturers as well. So moving on, let me just, I think there could be some problem here because I joined the same class code, but I don't
I think
see.
it's a different code.
It is
You
a
want
different code
to,
altogether, though I sign in as the same account, yeah. But nevertheless, it's okay. Let's move on. This is just to show you that as you have experienced earlier on with the word cloud, yeah, how easy it is for me to punctuate my lesson delivery with a quick quiz, right, without leaving my deck of slides. So even if I don't have, if I have not created this deck of slides before, I could create it on the fly, right, without leaving my own deck of slides of content, right? And as you have experienced it before earlier on, you can see who has responded, how many have yet to respond, who has gotten the right answer to this, and this becomes a feedback, a very valuable feedback to the teacher, because I've been talking 20 minutes for the continuously for the past 20 minutes, and I need to a certain feedback to see if you are with me, or have I lost 50% of the class, or I have lost entirely the class in terms of what they know, what they understand about this content. So it's a very easy way to get student engagement. We don't have to look at things that are rocket science actually. So just to reinforce, right? While we're talking about minimalist approach, engaging the students with meaningful activities, right? With meaningful activities. So how do we do that typically? This is just an alternative way to look at things. So typically for myself, I love to use quizzes, right? Quizzes to feedback to me how my students are doing. In terms of the learning objective that we need to achieve for the day, right? It can be anything, anywhere in between. It can be just part of your slides, or it can be a virtual polling, right? Which is polling by definition is synchronous, right? The student has to be there for as long as the poll is valid, so that we have a feel of who is with us, who is lost, who have we lost along the way. And it's a quick Blackboard, for example, Blackboard Collaborate that we use as an LMS is limited to 110 characters. I have no complaint about it, because usually we just want to construct the question on the fly, and we save time by typing as little characters as possible. So another engagement is with our students. So how we are doing that in IT is that we have two platforms. We have Microsoft Teams, and we have the Blackboard Collaborate. And in it, we have private channels, and we have the private group that we can leave the group of students to discuss in private, right? So we can drop by on and off to hear them out, whether they are on track with their discussion. So that's how we do it. More difficult to achieve, but nevertheless not impossible, is the immediacy of the teacher feedback. Because for my practice is I try as much as possible when it comes to theoretical contents to feedback to them on their, take for example mock tests, take for example questionnaires that we give to the students, and we try to get back to them within the same day, right? Because of immediacy, isn't it? Content immediacy. So currently at the moment, for myself, I'm using Microsoft Forms, right? Because for reasons that it can auto mark only for MCQ questions and very short answer questions because of the permutations of the possible answers coming in. What's new is that we are trying out this interesting but nevertheless very helpful engine here where they can mark reports. So I'm from School of Business, and we have a lot of business reports, company reports that we require the students to write and to submit. So here we are testing out this tool that could perhaps give us a slider, right? A scale slider. So previously we were all on Microsoft Word document trying to give the feedback and send them back to the students. But now we reduce that number of typing, and because typically for a report we can easily spend 2 hours on giving feedback, but here it's much reduced, 50%, and that gives us the affordance to quickly get back to the students to address the immediacy of the lecturer being there immediately, almost immediately for them, yeah, for the students. Okay, so these are the three ways, three factors of engagement, and some of the tools that we are using to achieve this. In terms of learning lesson activities, I just want to quickly flash this to you, because a lot of times we have questions from fellow practitioners, like what do you mean by activities that are engaging? So if you recall, Csikszentmihalyi is a Hungarian psychologist. So he says, try to put your students in this zone, a zone called flow, right? Because students in the zone of flow typically are more motivated and engaged in your lesson. So what this typically means is that we balance between challenge and skills, right? So know the level of your class, like what Sofia was saying. Every class is different, right? So every class, though the same content, we have same lecturer as well, right? But we have performance of different skill, right? So for a certain class, you may want to pack the challenge, the difficulty of the question to their available skill. Because if you're packing them too high, the challenge with the limited skill they have, they will just give up because it's just too difficult. They feel anxious about it. You just you just be away from your session, isn't it? But if you are giving a very low challenge to a very high performing class, then you are just boring them, yeah, making them so bored that they just don't respond anymore. So the trick here is to have a balance, to put our kids to be in that zone. So you know best because you are the lecturer for that class. So that's what we try to do when we create activities to engage our students, right? So this is my last slide, and if there's anything, right, managing a home-based learning is not easy, right? It creates a fatigue to the lecturers because there's just so many things that we need to handle at one point in. So if you can think about your mind, we try to approach HBL sessions with using this mind approach. And basically this mind approach basically just says that we try to maintain a optimal use of our educational tech tools. It doesn't mean that we have 20, we have to use all 20. If it's just a very straightforward PowerPoint, so be it, if it fits the purpose for the day. Involve in conversations with communities of practice. There's a lot of new things, right? Like John says, it's a new norm, right? It's a lot of new things. So talk about it because we are all in the same boat, right? And a lot of times I get a lot of clarity. Though not immediate answers, but I get a lot of clarity just by talking about the problem that we face during the home-based learning, right? And also we saw the learning activities negotiate between the challenge and skills to create activities that allows our students to be in the zone, right? To be in the flow. And of course, we try to cultivate self-directed learning, so activities that can allow them to reinforce their learning. So for us here in ITE, we tend to record every single HBL session. Okay, so that those who are slower in getting our point across, they can always look back and reinforce what they heard during the home-based learning session, right? So here, take away the mind approach. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Shalyn. Thank you, Shalyn, for the excellent sharing. And I think we all heard the mind approach, and that's an excellent summary. And thank you for your examples of the technological tools. So the Microsoft Teams breakout rooms, the Blackboard breakout rooms, and as well as the feedback fruits, right? Feedback fruits, auto scoring, and MS Forms. So fellow educators, you can take notes on these tools. And I strongly agree that at this moment of time, we should minimalize the EdTechs that we're using, because there are so many out there. And if you're trying to use all of them, you'll definitely run into all kinds of different problems. So as EdTech providers, we also want to be as simple as possible. And as educators, you want to just maybe use a few tools that you are most comfortable with and try to use them in your every class. As long as they can fulfill your needs, just use them. Thank you, Shalyn, again. So let's move on to Sofia. Sofia, I know you are an award-winning lecturer with a lot of experience using like gamification, and you try to make your classes really creative, right? And you want to share with us your experience and different ways you use to engage students and different cohort of students.
Thank you so much, John. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. For my presentation, I'll be covering on virtual learning, how each and every one of us can inspire classroom experience. My name is Puteri Sofia. I'm a senior law lecturer as well as program director for Master of Laws program. By able to wear different hats as a lecturer, I'm able to deliver whatever knowledge that students are required to learn. But as a program director, I also gather feedback from all students, regardless undergraduate or postgraduate students, on areas where the law school as a whole can improve. So from there, that's how I try to implement to the extent that I can to make learning law to be more interactive as well as to be more meaningful. So on how I actually utilize or using a lot of activities to teach law, it's because the term law itself already challenging, especially when I teach English land law for the law student who owns no property. So each and every semester on the first day of class, I can see their reaction. They're not happy that they have to take this subject because it's a core module. They hear stories from their roommates, how they have to learn a lot of complicated terminologies. So then back then in 2017, that's when I realized whatever methods or technological tools like Kahoot that I have used, it's all not working because students are already familiarized with all of these tools when they're in year one. So there's nothing new in year two. So that's when I did research and I came across with augmented reality. So I thought, why not? Because augmented reality is something new. During back camp, Pokemon Go was on the go, everyone was using it. So then I realized perhaps this something can lift up students' motivation as well as inspire them to learn difficult module by themselves. Just like how Shalyn mentioned, we should instill deep learning as well as self-directed learning instead of lectures is telling them what to learn. So I'll be sharing a snippet on how I utilize augmented reality prior to COVID-19 pandemic. So as you can see, when I adopted the use of augmented reality, students' motivation increased from learning law in the classroom for 2 hours with myself. Now they have the experience of learning law by themselves outside the classroom, away from the lecturer. And on top of that, they need to engage with strangers to inform the strangers what they have learned so that the strangers can rate their performance. So it's good in a way students, they have to think on their feet, think under pressure, as well as build up their confidence levels in terms of how they can improve their communication skills based on the feedback from a stranger. Because all of us as a lecturer, we are guided by our program learning outcome, as well as each and every module, we have our own respective module learning outcome. So I have to make sure that how students can utilize latest technology, how they can communicate effectively to all stakeholders, as well as how they can appreciate the English land law. So then I realized after implementing augmented reality, I can tackle all of the module learning outcomes for English land law itself with one activity. And then came along COVID-19 pandemic. So students are unable to approach members of exchanges, nor they are able to communicate with each other because everyone was confined at their own homes. So what I realized, I took this that I cannot do it by myself. So I inquired with the possibility of collaboration with lecturers from different faculty, which was the Taylor's Design School, and they have agreed to assist me to develop a mobile app on how students can still enjoy learning using augmented reality even though they're at home. So this is a snippet again on how students learn law using a customized mobile application.
Guys, can you advise me on my situation? I want to take this matter to court.
So as you can see, by utilizing a customized mobile app, so even though the module is difficult, students will feel not only excited, but they will also be assessed prior to receiving instruction to attempt their assignment. So if they don't know a particular area of law, which means they cannot receive the assignment grade. So it's good that students know that they need to prepare in advance before attempting the activity on the mobile phone. I also utilize neuro-linguistic programming because I would like students to able to communicate without looking either at their cue card notes or even reading from the PowerPoint slides. So by utilizing neuro-linguistic programming, for example, a module on legal skills and method, so students are able to utilize various techniques on how to make sure that within 30 seconds they can get the attention of another speaker, as well as influence other people to accept their ideas. So this is an example of how I utilize neuro-linguistic programming on campus, where I ask students to engage in a speed dating activity, where each of them have 30 seconds to communicate about their ideas on certain areas of law before I say next, then they have to change partner. So this will get students to go outside their comfort zone and make sure they're aware of their own body movement, body language, as well as ability to pitch their idea or answer within 30 seconds. Again, when it comes to COVID-19, we are unable to utilize this method, but just like how Shalyn utilized breakout rooms, so it is possible and can be done. That's where the groups of students been divided into small groups where they can still practice neuro-linguistic programming in each separate breakout rooms as well. So last part is I'm a fond of gamification. I utilize a lot of gamification techniques to get students to engage in participation, especially for the challenging modules that I teach. Students in the past, what they'll do is that they'll come to class, only half of them will come prepared, whereas the other half will be expecting answer from their classmates or from myself. So from there, I realized that this cannot be the way forward. So what I'll do, I'll bring along a card, a game card, as you can see, just like how the students are holding. For each correct answer, they will be receiving a card, and the card will be randomized depending on whatever answer that they provide. Even if it's correct, sometimes they can get 10, sometimes they get joker, which means they get 0. So students will want to keep participating in class because they will want to have a card. So again, because of COVID-19 pandemic, so I had to think of a way on how I can utilize gamification techniques for virtual learning. So this is where I still utilize the card, but students are also able to observe their performance in class, because I will record their participation each week. So this is a snippet on how I use gamification in class.
And Jeremy really quiet this it. Jeremy.
Mortgage payment.
So Jeremy gets a card. Jeremy gets 10. You need to determine whether or not Louisa has an interest.
Okay, so there's a loading problem there. As you can see, yep.
Jeremy really quiet this it. Come on, Jeremy.
Mortgage payment.
So Jeremy gets a card. Jeremy gets 10. First, you need to determine whether or not Louisa has an interest. So whether Louisa has an interest, Kimberly, you get 10. And another card is 10 also.
Miss. This one.
Oh, this one. Bye-bye, Dishan.
Miss.
Yes.
Prospective bias is considered.
Dishan gets a card. Dishan gets 5. Come on, Sam, I'm still waiting. He also completed. He gets a card. He gets 5.
Profitable interest.
Yes, correct. He gets 9.
So as you can see, by utilizing that technique, students will be able to see from week 1 how they perform in class, and then throughout week's progress, so they still can assess their level of performance in the classroom, and they will also know which area of topic that they are weak, and then if they require clarification, they will feel free to reach out to me via email. But then I was introduced with ClassPoint, which made my life so much easier, so I don't have to record students' performance. So when I utilize ClassPoint, I will use Microsoft PowerPoint to project my slide. And at the same time, after my lecture, I'll get students to participate in quizzes so that they themselves would know if they are ready to proceed on the next point. So I'll show you another example how I utilize ClassPoint for my law lecture.
Of course, what I like to do is do a little bit of recap just to see if you still can remember what was covered last. Okay, if you're ready, I'm ready. First question is, which section provides the definition of land? The class 58 of you got it correct. Which case provided the two tests to determine the knife constructor, or it is a fixture? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 36 students answered B, and the correct answer is are the two tests. The correct answer, guys, it will be degree of annexation as well as purpose of annexation. So that's where the introduction to FPP comes in. So what do you understand from the term impartial, byproduct, drawback, common law, part? Wow. What happens if I die without a will?
Assume that your property will, or your assets all go to the king, the crown.
Immediately, I think it does go back to the crown. I'll see you guys next week on Monday. Okay, goodbye.
So as you can see, the utilization of ClassPoint will make the learning process in your lecture itself very seamless, and you can also utilize it in a smaller classroom, for example, in tutorial or seminar session. Because my lecture is 2 hours long, and then based on the syllabus I have to cover, I cannot miss any subtopics. And especially when the module is challenging. So every 10 minutes, just like how Shalyn suggested, I'll take a break and then I'll introduce different type of activities. So first I'll utilize quizzes, and then after that word cloud, and then after that INKNOE. So it'll be randomized. Students will always anticipate there'll be some activity coming up. So they will have to be there throughout the 2-hour session. And unlike Shalyn, I don't give them a break. So I would like to share tips to inspire how you can increase your classroom experience. Is that it will be great if you can tell students that for each participation that they will be rewarded. So depending on your own creativity, you can reward the students based on the number of game cards, or if you want to use a dice, roll the dice, or if you want to use The online wheel of fortune is entirely up to you. It's also good to provide students with opportunities to provide answer orally. So that's where I utilize pick a name, where I don't have to feel guilty to select student's name. So I'll just use picking picture, and then student's name will be selected. And lastly, a student enjoy the most if they are able to see their own progress or their own each week. So if you use ClassPoint, for example, you can save students' answer. So then at least you have a record on students' performance. So in the next class, you can either show their progress, or if you want to utilize Google Excel, just how I did, as long as it's visible for students, and students will definitely enjoy your class. That's all from me. My name is Puteri Sofia. You can reach out to me via LinkedIn, or you can email direct me at puterisofia.amiruddin@taylors.edu.my. And I believe the reason all of you are here today is because you like to learn, to implement something new, and the best way to create something new is start now instead of waiting the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sophia. That's really inspiring. I can see you're trying to use all kinds of gamification to inspire your students. I don't know, I'm not an expert in law, but by hearing the law, English land law, I assume it's not so interesting, but you try to make it really, really fun. You even developed your own app. It's a gamified experience, so they can play the game and they can score, right? So that's really, really amazing. Just one question from me, because both of you actually mentioned the pick a name feature, and the reason we developed this feature is try to add some excitement into this classroom teaching. So what I want to ask you, maybe you can share with us, when you pick your students by yourself versus when you pick using ClassPoint, it's a random selection of students. Are students reacting differently? Like, you know, how do they react, and do they feel differently? Maybe we start with Shalyn. So,
all right. Yeah, I think the feeling is a little bit different. I mean, it's to me, it's a plus point. Take for example, if when I previously without the pick a name, right? So I will scroll down and see who is in, who is not, and we know our class, and we typically tend, though we try to make it so obvious, but we tend to call students whom we think may not be there listening to you, because you know that they are away, but so we try to call them just to make sure that they are around, right? So we end up always calling those few names. So by using the pick a name, it is random. It's really random, and I could feel that when they answer, they are more willing to answer, rather than when I pick them and they say, why me again, you know? And then you get this reluctance to answer. But when the same person being picked up randomly by the pick a name, he come across as more willing to participate, because fate has it that his name has to be called, right? Yeah, so I find that's more engaging.
Right. Thanks. How about you, Sophia?
Probably
students
sharing
more
module
willing
is
to?
interesting. That's why. For my students, because the module itself is difficult, so they always feel anxiety if they know that they're going to be called. So what happens in the past is that the Microsoft PowerPoint that I use, I will already pre-select the 10 students who I'm going to call. So they already know the moment they come to class, it will be randomized whose name will be projected. So they say in the teaching survey that they don't like that feeling every time they come to class. They feel nervous because they don't know if they're going to be called. So when I use ClassPoint, because of the colors, I think because of the features, so they feel more relaxed and they're more ready to actually being called. Even though it's actually the same, the end of being called, the name is actually the same to assess the students. But for some reason, ClassPoint make it easier for me.
Yeah, I think they will at least not blame you for picking their names. And hopefully they don't blame ClassPoint as well. Okay, thank you so much for your sharing. And now let's move on to to my part, where I will let my colleague share the screen again. So the new quiz competition feature was added very recently in this month. And just now, Sophia, you mentioned about motivation. So motivation in home-based learning versus a physical classroom is very different. So when you go to classroom, you can see your classmates, and then the motivation is there because you have your peers also learning together with you. Just like when you go to library to learn, it's the same thing, right? But when you are home, you have your TV, you have your sofa, you have everything. You have your bed, and then being motivated is more challenging. So we've recently created this feature to allow you not only to be able to set multiple choice questions, but also able to use these multiple choice questions to test your students and rank your students. So not only you have to answer the questions correctly, you also need to answer the questions fast enough to gain more points. So based on these two criteria, you can rank your students and you can display the leaderboard. And in fact, their answers are all saved, so you can see the statistics in your slideshow or after your slideshow, and you can export them as CSV. So I will just quickly show you. Let's quit the slideshow mode. Actually, I'm going to reveal my first question in the quiz. Which country held the 2016 Summer Olympics? The answer is Brazil. So how to add this multiple choice question? Just add a button in there that I think we all know. And then it has a correct answer, which is C. Okay, the new feature is the competition mode checkbox. You just need to check it, and then you can see the icon becomes a trophy. So slightly different icon. This indicates that it's a quiz question. You have to answer this correctly, and then your answers will be recorded for calculation. So let's just go to slideshow mode again. We'll see how many of you are still in the session. So I think there's a new, I think it refreshes the code. I want to invite all of you to join again. So this time there's a new code, and once you join, we will start the game, right? We'll use this game to select our winners. Thank you. Okay, so we'll give, wow, very fast. So by the way, the ClassPoint right now supports up to 500 students. So it can be used when you are teaching online. It can also be used when you're teaching in a physical classroom. So I know in Singapore, MOE schools, K-12, primary secondary schools, students are learning from the school. You only have like 1 day in every 10 days where they learn from home. So in that case, in both cases, you can use this feature. Yeah. So for students, they can use mobile phones, they can use iPads, Chromebooks, or any devices with browser. Okay. So still joining. Yeah. Okay. So let's close that. I want you guys to be fast enough. Okay. Now, the first questions, really, we all know the answer. So we'll see who is the fastest. Oh, still joining. Okay. Okay. So I will count to 10 and then we'll start. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's start. Okay, give us your answer. That's fast. Okay, so here you can actually see who submitted, who didn't submit. I think we'll just give a 30 seconds for each question maximum. So let's just close that. And the answer obviously is C, but let's see who is the fastest. After that, you can show the correct answer to your students. You can go to leaderboard. So we'll see CW, Apple, and Lee. Wow, very close. 1,993 and 987. Oh, we have two. Sanjay also 987. But this is just the first question. After each question, I think the leaderboard will change. So let's just go to the second question, which may not be so obvious, so easy for you. How many hearts does an octopus have? 1 heart, 2 hearts, 3 hearts, and 4 hearts. Let's start. I actually thought all animals have 1 heart. I can feel we are all guessing actually. Okay, we'll wait until 30 seconds and I'll cut off. Okay, let's close. Okay, what is the correct answer for this question? It's C. The octopus has 3 hearts. Okay, good question. Now, leaderboard, still CW. Ahmed and Nick Fu. Yeah, we have the top 3. Actually, the first is still CW. Let's continue. We still have 3 questions. So number 3 is about a movie, all right? In Pirates of the Caribbean, what was the name of Captain Jack Sparrow's ship? Let's start. Oh, I think all of us have watched the movie. Okay, so this is another speed test for us. Yeah, I think most of us, 83% got it right. Yes, it's the Black Pearl leaderboard. Let's say CW. Oh, wow. Wow. All questions are 100% correct. Yeah, actually all 6 are got 100% correct. Wow, but CW is the fastest. Let's move on to the number 4 question. Is also a movie, but this movie is older, right? According to Forrest Gump. Yeah, so this question will reveal your age. Life was like sorry, it doesn't reveal the age anyway, actually, because this is a very classic movie. We're all very young. '65, '67, '67. 5, 4. Actually, as long as you got the question right, at least you'll get 500 points. The full mark is 1,000 points. So yeah, the answer is a box of chocolates. And wow, okay, I think the ranking is not changing because they all got it right. Okay, now we have the last question. So after the last question, will the leaderboard actually change? Because we'll see. Because the last question, we don't have a question yet. I decided to do this more creatively, so I will start the question first. But guys, don't submit your answer yet because we don't have a question yet. Okay, so let's just minimize this. Is this following statement correct? A is correct, B is incorrect. Let's reveal the question now. Okay, let's go. So as you can see, it is on minimized state, but you can still see the number of submissions and the timer. So everything is within PowerPoint. It's very easy. This is our last question. Okay, hope you all got it right. Okay, let's end this question and show the correct answer. Yes, of course, it's not right. And we'll see a leader. Oh, wow. But the top 3 performances are all our winners. So you will win 1 by Wacom, 2 by Wacom, and 3 by Wacom. Yeah, congratulations. Please contact us in the chat. You can go to the chat box. And basically, you can contact us, leave your phone numbers, and we will contact you. Yeah, thank you. So you can just chat to our panelists, and then our colleagues will contact you after this. And for those of you who haven't got the prizes, let's move on to the next slide. Because Wacom is very kind, they actually provided a 5% discount on these two models as well. So one is a Bluetooth model. So let me just show you. It's this size. Okay, you have the stylus. You can write on your slides, but you don't need to connect the cables. It's Bluetooth connection. So if you want to walk around in the classroom, this is a great choice. And this one as well is called Wacom One. It actually has a display. So you can use this not only as a tablet, you can also use it as a secondary monitor. Because when let's say we teach on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, having two monitors is definitely better than one. Because one monitor we can see our students, the other monitor we can share our screen. So if you'd like these two models, you can email Yasu from Wacom, and she will provide the coupon code actually for you to purchase online. Okay, so I think let's, well, it's already 1 hour, but I think we'll have time to answer maybe just one question from the audience. So what are the best ways to engage shy and less vocal students to participate during online classes? Yeah, I think one way Shalyn and Sofia both use is to pick a name. But do you have other thoughts you want to share with the audience?
As a program director, I am given the flexibility to conduct class observation. So I managed to observe best practices from my colleagues as well. So one of my colleagues, she will introduce a 10-second rule. So which means when she asks the students have 10 seconds to share their answer, but she also provides assurance that it's okay to get the answer wrong because she can correct the students there and then. So if the student exceeds the 10 seconds, then students will need to submit a full essay answer based on the question that she asked. So I think it's pretty interesting. I didn't use it, but when I observe the class, I think it's a good technique. Other lecturers will actually give a group of students 1 minute to answer. And then after that, she will provide tips one by one so that students will gain the confidence to answer the question. I think based on a lot of class observation that I've conducted, the ability of lecturers to provide assurance that it's okay for students to share the answer even if it's wrong, so it will lift up students' confidence to provide answer.
Yeah, I think it's very important to let them know that they can answer this question incorrectly, and that's a learning process. Yeah, Shalyn, you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, it's during the home-based learning, it's really we don't see them, so the non-verbal cues are not visible. So our shy students typically they are less how to say, they are not so confident of themselves. So the minute we ask them and like we pick a name and like if we don't use that random pick a name and we really just look at them, their names, and we pick them, you can feel that the motivation and the confidence deteriorates because they are shy in the first place, they are not confident of their answers in the first place. So basically for really very shy students, we kind of like have a more of a one-to-one conference session with them because we try to number one, build up their confidence, because typically they are not so confident to voice their answers or to voice their questions or to voice their queries in a large group environment. So HBL is very we don't want to lose them just because of fear to participate in the session, for fear that teacher may be calling me. Yeah.
Wow, that's very kind. You're doing this one-to-one session with them just to inspire them and improve them so that if they actually progress in the lecture, they won't feel so shy because they have more confidence built up. Yeah. So that's thank you for the tips from Shalyn and then Sofia. I think we're 6 minutes overrun. Thank you everybody for this session, and hope you have learned something from our experts in here. And if you still have any questions, we actually just now we displayed our email addresses in here. Feel free to contact us via email, and I believe our guest speakers will be more than happy to answer any of your questions. And then you can also email us if you want us to cover any other topics in future webinars. Just feel free to let us know. And finally, I would like to wish our speakers and our attendees a good weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.